Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 fan cast. I'm your episode Havoc Puss, and I'm joined with my co-host Frozen Creek.
Hello, hello. Back from the cold, dark depths of Detroit. So now I can start singing "It's So Cold" in the D because it's getting there.
It's also getting close to spooky times.
It's very close to spooky time. And on that note, college football starts up this weekend for me. I have set the last couple weeks out because college has been dead for the Big Ten, but we open up this week against Butgers with our new coach who
Ooh,
came in
fun.
during COVID, so it's going to be interesting. I would ask you how Bam is doing, but one, all of us know, and two,
Does anyone care?
nobody cares unless they lose. No offense.
No, that's literally how every Bama season goes. It's, well, how's Bama doing? And it's like, well, they're clearly doing good. And it's like, well, did they lose yet? No. All right, get back to me when they lose.
I will say the LSU, who is it Mississippi State or Ole Miss with the new coach?
Lane Kiffin is the new coach for Ole Miss.
Okay, so Mississippi State has what's his face from Washington State.
Uh,
Crazy
yes,
dude.
I'm just gonna agree with you. I don't know.
Mike Leach. And they beat LSU in the first week after the guy passed for like 600 yards or something stupid. No, you missed it. Okay, that's fine. All right, back
Yeah,
to
yeah, I missed it.
back to more important things then.
Right. If it's not my team, I usually don't watch it. My dad usually tells me, but then I forget instantly. Um, we have a lot of stuff to cover. Uh, I am going to run through some results really quick. So this week, Rainbow Six went 1-1 again. The regular season, I think, for this APAC season that's going on is over now. I'm not sure how the playoff bracket's going to work out. I may look at that later, and we can talk about it next episode. Our chess boy, Penguin, he got first place in upside down chess. I'm not sure what that entails, but there was an upside down chess tournament. Um, and he won, so good for him.
Nice. I'm not quite sure what that means,
I don't
but
know what it means either, but it sounds incredibly zany. I have a couple of Valorant results. The North American team got third in the Renegades Invitational. It was kind of a disappointing result considering they're a highly rated team. I will say that this is like the first tournament that they've played in like maybe like 2 months since there was like that dead time of no one really playing anything. So maybe they're just really rusty, and I think since all these meta shifts are happening, people are trying to like figure out new roles and new characters and everything, and Korea seems to be doing that a lot more. Our Korean team, uh, they got they participated in the clan battle act 2. They got they went to the finals, but they lost to Vision Strikers, and they have a new lineup, which is also really interesting. They've got rid of Try, Doya, and Muthi, who are I believe they're all Apex Legends players, and we replaced them with Hate, uh, Buzz, and then I can't remember how to pronounce the other guy's name. It starts with an X. They're not like official yet, but the team looked a lot better with those guys playing, and they're playing. I think they're playing in like another finals match for some other event with a much larger prize pool like this weekend.
oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so if you're up at like 3 in the morning or whatever, and you want to watch it, you can to cheer on our Korean players.
And you should.
Yeah, and you should. The Korean team's actually really good. Korea's interesting as a region because like you definitely see like it's really interesting to see like how teams build their comps versus our North American team because like our NA team we don't play like any Sova, like none of the players on the North American team play Sova. It's really weird, but then like in Korea it's pretty much standard like you have to have a Sova on your team. So it seems like Korea really prioritizes more like information gathering and like stuff like that versus North America. Since we're more, I guess, like have like a more CS heavy background, we seem to really prioritize like entry and like being able to like duel and really like breaking into a site and then just killing everybody. So it's a really interesting kind of differences. I'm really curious actually to see what goes on with the NA team actually because we had like that third place finish, and I think that the first strike qualifier is coming up soonish. I'm not sure when we'll be playing in it, but it'll be interesting if this roster actually holds. I know that Shinobi had some like Shinobi was weird because everyone really criticizes Shinobi, and he actually played like a lot better than what we usually saw from him, but he still had some pretty bad mistakes, and pretty much the whole team was kind of inconsistent. Like Tens was really inconsistent at that event. Pretty much everyone was. So it'll be interesting to see if that event was just them kind of getting back in the groove and trying to learn what sort of how to play on like the new changes and whatnot. But I'm interested to see if we actually do end up making roster changes.
Huh. Yeah. I agree with everything you said. I didn't get a
Perfect.
chance to watch it.
But let's move on to our first big news. Our
yeah,
CSGO,
this is the biggest news.
yeah,
I
our
guess it's not.
CSGO Colossus is now complete frozen with the signing of Eastag, who played for Astralis.
Yeah, apparently this is a really big. The buyout seems big. The paycheck seems big, and I think the impact on our team it will be big. That this is like the biggest statement of intent from an NA team in a while, especially after 100 Thieves dropped out last week.
Yeah,
or 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah. Like 100 Thieves like sold their team, which everyone's super mad because like I think they just won an event like after they had announced they were already gonna drop the team. So it's like, what are you?
Oh, woof.
What are you doing? Like this, these guys are like, really trying and they're improving, but you're gonna get rid of them, whatever. But I think this is like the signing, if you're wanting to like make a staple of like, yes, this is going to be a really solid team that's gonna push for, really high in the world rankings. We're gonna win tournaments. We're gonna be strong individually and as a team. And I think this really rounds it out. A lot of people were kind of saying like, well, your signings so far in this haven't been like all that impressive. Like sure you have Alex, Woxic is a good signing, but then they're like, oh well, I don't know about Floppy. Mezzi is a rookie. We're not sure like exactly if people can really get excited for him. But then they sign Eastag with a huge contract. I think this is exactly the announcement that you want to make to like get everyone like, okay, Cloud9 is actually serious.
All right. Is it entirely coincidental that a week after we signed Eastag, we dropped Liquorish?
So I was going to talk about that actually. When
I have a feeling it is not even remotely related at all. But there was a lot of backs going around.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that when we get to the Liquorish thing. And I will say that, if Liquorish does have a big contract and then you just spend a bunch of money and you're able to make some of that money back, from a business point of view, if you're able to have someone that can play pretty much just as well as Liquorish can, if not more so, maybe.
I don't think so. But
okay, it could be purely coincidental. We
I
don't
think
have all the
it
information.
probably is, and we will discuss that
Yes.
in a couple minutes.
Yeah, but I'm excited. I think they're going to be debuting at Flashpoint, which takes place in early November. I'm really excited to see what this team's actually capable of. I don't know a whole lot about the individual players specifically, outside of Floppy, but I think this team has a high skill ceiling. I think that they can actually do what their goal is, and that is to become like a top five-ish team and win some big tournaments.
Yeah, I think that this is the biggest statement of intent from a Cloud9 team in a while. Like, probably since the Overwatch
Oh yeah, like
league
that
team, the
first,
first
yeah,
one
yeah,
with
the first
Profit
season.
and Birdring, and man, that was a really good team.
It was. It was so long ago. It was. I remember when I was initially excited because it's like, oh man, yeah, Kongdu Panthera. That's it's a really good team. We should be good. And then they get beaten in the finals, and then we just signed the team that beats us. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're definitely gonna do it big now. We're gonna crush it. And then we initially crush it, and then we kind of don't crush it for a little while, and then we kind of look shaky. But then we come right back in time to crush it again in that championship.
Yeah, I miss a good Overwatch League team.
And you'll never see one again, Frozen.
Well,
Transitioning over to our next
topically,
topic. Um, so I'm really proud of myself for that transition. So the London Spitfire announced that they're pretty much getting rid of like everybody. Shocker. They released like 7 players last week or a couple weeks ago, and then they have like anyone that they didn't announce that they were just dropping to like free agency or whatever. I think they're holding on to like sell for buyouts for the contract. And what's really interesting is they got a new general manager who I think used to be the manager for the British Hurricanes, and so they put out a video kind of explaining what the situation was and kind of what their goals were for 2021. And if you haven't watched it, basically the bullet points are like, we're going to try and do a roster that's more indicative and representative of like the European region. We're going to be more, like interactive between the two teams. So like, the Spitfire, pretty much like what Cloud9 does with the League of Legends team, where the Spitfire and the Hurricanes will scrim each other. There'll maybe some fluidity between like the rosters and people switching back and forth. They're also going to try to like develop European talent for Overwatch and try to really build up players to enter the scene, and so they can have a more robust, Overwatch competition in Europe. And probably something that I think a lot of people are expecting, but I find kind of interesting is that she said like we're not aiming to really be like a top team right now, and we don't expect us to like go to the playoffs or anything or do anything really great, which I find kind of interesting. That's I'm of two sides about it. Like on the one hand, like yes, it's better to temper our expectations now, especially after all of this. You're finally giving some of the people, the Overwatch fans that have been screaming since we first assembled the London Spitfire, like, oh, it's just an all Korean team. I'm not going to watch them because they're not European or whatever, and that's not indicative of the region. And to me, that argument's just still really messed up. But they're shifting and going to this route because their team is just kind of completely sputtered out, and now it's like, well, the league is struggling. We're struggling. We might as well try to just coast on out and get some money. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if as a fan, I want to hear your new GM say like, look, we're probably not going to do well in the future. Just brace yourselves for that.
yeah, it is kind of odd. I guess I feel like this is probably the thing that they should have done from the beginning, was to poach up the best European talent. But
I think the argument with that is like, you can have the best European talent, but it won't matter if you're a poor team, right? I think, and that's always been my argument's always been like, like yes, you can have the best European talent or whatever, you can have this full EU roster, but like, will you really have the same number of fans that you would have if you're like the Cleveland Browns of Overwatch versus, you're a competitive team, but you just don't maybe you don't win as much, but you're a more competitive team with like a Korean roster, like maybe what we had in like season 2, right? It, it's something that like I guess you kind of have to debate about. I guess we're now technically kind of one of the Cleveland Brown teams of Overwatch since this season did not turn out well, so I guess it doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so I've seen it. I've seen so much worse. But like, if we're if we're not going to be investing in like a major team, like you might as well have um, a European on a majority team in any way. Like give them someone to at least like because they have nothing. The London quote unquote fans don't have anything in common with the South Korean players and such. But I I am excited to see how their European-based roster looks because the British Hurricanes have been completely dominant in
They're
their
like 32-0 currently.
yeah, they're really good. So I'm
That
curious
is
to see how it's going to
contenders.
stack up.
That is contenders though, and that doesn't naturally, that won't 100% equate to Overwatch League, but
No, but
the fact that they are like 32-0 is pretty impressive. And I do agree. I think that you do have to do something, and I think at this point, when well, and I think this is a thing that's happening all over the league. It's not just us. Like I'm checking the competitive Overwatch subreddit like pretty much daily, just to see if there's any news, and I'm seeing just team after team, they're just getting rid of like, all of their rosters, just like they're free agents or they're being released. It's like free agency released, and I think that with the league going into what seems like kind of a downturn, you don't want to burn a lot of money, especially when you're, if the league isn't making as much money, you're not making as much money, and especially with moves that you're making in other parts of your organization, and everything. This totally makes sense. Like you can probably have cheaper players, going for this, European route. You can bring up the British Hurricane roster. You can do like a mix of that and some other European players. It totally makes sense from like a budget move, because you want to still be in the league. I totally get it, especially now with, this roster not working out on top of all the financial stuff that's probably going on behind the scenes with the league. It totally makes sense, and like at this point, I honestly can't blame the Spitfire for doing it this way. I guess my arguments for what I said earlier were all for like at the very beginning when the league started, but looking at where the league is now and where the team is at now, it does make more sense to do it that way.
yeah, I can't be surprised that this move is coming just because of how much it feels to me like Overwatch League has fallen off. So
Yeah, I did see that there was some Overwatch 2 news where I think that it was leaked that maybe the beta would be out in like February, and then the game would be targeted to release maybe around like April-ish. I'm not, I can't say for sure if that's 100% sure or not, but it'll be interesting if Overwatch 2 will be able to like, keep interest in Overwatch, afloat enough to like kind of re-energize people to play Overwatch and get the esports scene kind of going again, and have people like more invested in it. Who knows, but I think the next couple of years for the league will definitely be probably the most important, to see if they can fix the things that are broken and try to get back on track.
yeah, I agree.
Well, with all that said, I think that we have really our next biggest story, and that's the drama going down in the League of Legends team. Now, before I ask your thoughts on it, I do want to kind of set up the situation. And so, Cloud9 got knocked out of the playoffs. for, the NA playoffs. And in September, they were doing an interview with Dom, and Dom asked, like, hey, are you guys, like, sticking together for next year? And they said yes. It was announced, this roster's staying together, no one's leaving, we're going to stick it out and try to make it work next year. Fast forward a little bit, and I think, what was it, like 2 weeks before this was announced, like a week, 2 weeks before this was announced, the Riot announced that the OPL would be dissolving, and all OPL players would be naturalized NA residents, and they would be allowed to compete with NA without taking up an import slot. And I think that is a big driver for what happened, where it was announced that Liquorish was, I think it wasn't formally announced, it seemed pretty informal, but it was pretty much revealed Liquorish is not on the team any longer. He's going to be, Cloud9's going to try to get a buyout for his contract, and Fudge will be stepping up to replace him in the starting roster.
Yeah, so I think it's a very Cloud9 move.
It is very much a Cloud9 move.
And I think Cloud9 has built up the rapport to be able to pull this move off, because if this were any other team, I think there would be a lot
I think there'd
more
be
outcry.
more backlash. Yeah.
And Liquorish was probably the most liked player on Cloud9, like personality-wise. He was part of the semifinals run and everything.
Yeah.
He was the longest standing person on the main roster, basically. Although maybe Blabber's been around longer technically. I'm not sure.
Blabber may be like a close second.
Yeah. But he's been starting for a while now. He took over from Impact. But this feels a lot like the move when we let go of Impact and brought up Liquorish.
Yeah.
We had a ready-made replacement who was cheaper and just as good, I think. And
yeah.
Looking back at last year's academy stats, I don't think Fudge stuck out quite as much as Liquorish did when he was in academy, but we've also seen Hooney in academy this year, Kumo in academy, a Zion Spartan in academy. So I think the competition was also a lot bigger, but the Cloud9 academy team was the best probably over the course of the year. So I think it's a very Cloud9 move, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I think that Fudge definitely deserves it. It's definitely, I didn't even connect that with Impact, but I think that this definitely is a very Cloud9 move, and I think it's a good move. Liquorish has a big buyout, especially with all that's kind of going on right now with, that we don't think is connected, but it, we don't know for sure, but, with, he has a big contract, you can sell him and get money. Fudge is pretty much as comparable of a top laner as it gets in terms of being in the C9 system and understanding how the team works. He is scrimmed against the team regularly, so he knows how all the players work. I think Fudge is an amazing top laner. He usually crushes it whenever I've been watching Academy. And I think that he has all the strengths that Liquorish does. And I think that this on top of Liquorish having a really bad slump in the summer season, I think definitely it makes this move make sense. So, I'm not really broken up about losing Liquorish. Yeah, I mean, it sucks because he's a super nice player and he's always fun to watch. And there's all those memories that we have of Liquorish killing people in top lane and that cool little Baron smack that he did with Ornn. But I think that this is the right move, and I think this is a good move. I think this does actually open up a lot of conversations about what will happen to the roster now. If Liquorish is leaving now and Fudge doesn't take up an import slot, you can technically look at other roles and see if you can make upgrades and still, move around your import slots without having to worry about it become a conflict anymore. Um, everyone's saying that Niski is kind of a weak link. Um, and I'm not saying if C9 will or should make that move or not on this episode at least. But I think this does at least open up the doors for C9 to kind of reevaluate their situation now with this new information and look in seeing like, well, maybe we can make some changes to this team to make it better.
Yeah, and just a few other things to add to it. Fudge is actually 5 years younger than Liquorish.
Yeah, he's like 18.
Yeah, Ian Liquorish has already showed signs of injury in wearing down with his wrists. I think that they probably were able to help him out a decent amount when they set him for that week or two, plus all of the physical therapy and stuff. I'm sure has helped, but I as he gets older and plays more, at some point it probably will become an issue again. And another thing to add about Fudge, he's been to Worlds when he was playing into the OPL. He actually went with King. Funny enough. So
that was, I remember when we signed Fudge and King. I'm like, oh, they went to Worlds. They were on the same team. They look great. These are going to be great to have playing for us in Academy, and I think that Fudge is definitely, Fudge, in Academy he definitely shows that he's LCS ready, and it's time for him to hit the main stage. So I think that it's Fudge's time to shine, and I think we need to give him that moment.
Yeah, and even as excited as I am about Fudge, it is gonna suck with Lakers going to another team. People are saying that the highest chance is Team Liquid. FlyQuest could really use them, and so I don't know. If
I've heard that. I think I've maybe also heard like a lot of teams could really use a top laner right now. So it's really interesting to see the bidding war on who is going to take him. I've heard that like the most likely ones you've said are probably Team Liquid or FlyQuest. I think that FlyQuest may be interested in him if the rumors about Impact maybe going to TSM are true.
Which would be wild.
Which would be super wild. And I think that Licorice gets the added incentive of he gets to play with Core JJ, who is an incredible in-game leader and support player. He gets to play with Jensen, who he's played before, and he probably likes playing with Jensen and wants to play with Jensen again.
And Broxa.
So he, if he goes to TL, he has this whole roster of people that he's, he would probably love to play with, or has played with in the past. With FlyQuest, FlyQuest is interesting because he doesn't really have anyone that really has like any connections to him. But I think that FlyQuest is like, they're that team that's like bigger than the sum of their parts, but can actually succeed with it. And I think that could be, really beneficial to him if he could just amplify that even more.
Yeah, I think it'd be the most fun if he went to FlyQuest.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm sure there's gonna be another team out willing to drop some bags and really use him as their superstar player. So I think there are a lot of teams who will want him, but I think it would be the most fun if he went to FlyQuest.
Yeah, for sure. It wouldn't. There's even a world where I could see him going to CLG just because I really doubt that CLG wants to stick with Ruin for another split, but that wouldn't be nearly as fun.
Yeah, but they don't seem willing to spend money.
No, they're very much like a cheap org. They really try to like pinch their pennies and try to, make the best with what they can. But,
yeah. Echo Fox is Huni. Trying to think.
You mean Evil Geniuses?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So the other news is that Rainover was promoted to coach,
Yeah, and that
head
wasn't
coach.
that wasn't officially announced. It was Jacob Wolf released an article along with the Licorish news that said Rainover was being moved to coach. Um, in the notes that I typed up for this episode, just a little peek behind the curtain, I put possible coach, and I just put that just because it's there's been no official announcement yet, even though it is a Jacob Wolf article. We don't know anything for sure, but honestly, I think Rainover is a pretty good choice for a replacement. I think, in terms of the short list of coaches you could get and not have to, one, spend a lot, and two, already know how your team works. Like if you're hiring internally, I'd probably pick Rainover because what he did with the academy team is amazing. Like this year, and I can't remember if he was also the coach last year, but this year, he was able to make the team like really flexible whenever the meta changed, so they were really adaptable. He made them really consistent and made them play really well. I think also he was able to just, if they lost, he was able to course correct the team pretty easily and just be like, look, we lost. This is what we probably need to do. He seemed to really be able to guide the team and have them improve their play and be able to win, you know, very consistently. So I think that Rainover is actually a really good candidate to be a coach for the LCS team. If his academy record shows anything, I think he deserves a shot.
Yeah, I feel like that was the easiest choice for Jack to make, financially um,
Logistically.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just made sense. The thing that worries me the most was that he was also a part of the Reaper coaching thing. Although he was in charge of academy, like he still learned a lot from Reaper, and I guess it's semi concerning to me how discontent we did get with Reaper at the end, and
Mm.
how we kind of brushed off all of his flaws for a few years because we always got to Worlds, but at the end, like we kind of just were like, oh yeah, like he's kind of been shit and conceded, or shit at drafting and conceded about and arrogant about a lot of things for
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
or,
ahead.
so I'm hoping that we don't see those same things come out of rain over, because I do think that he is a good hire as a former jungler. He went to World
He went to Worlds a bunch
semifinals,
when he
I
was on
think.
Fnatic. He
Yeah,
like when he was
Huni.
on Fnatic, he was a pretty decorated player. And then
Yeah,
he went to
Huni ran over.
Immortals, and then his career in NA didn't do as well. But
Yeah.
I think that Rainover is a very different coach than Reaper. Like looking at our drafts in Academy versus LCS, like our drafts were pretty fluid. Like whenever the meta changed, we seemed to be able to shift picks to what was strong and what everyone else was kind of doing, and that also fit with our strengths. Versus Reaper, this split, he was just very like stubborn and just like no no no, this is the meta, and we would just either completely misread it or be really behind. I think that his Reaper's personal flaws as a coach, I think, definitely caught up to him at this point, and it definitely just became a time of we can't ignore this anymore, and you clearly like didn't produce the results that we needed, so it kind of became like an easy situation of just like, look, we have to let you go. We're sorry, you know. Like it's easy to like keep a coach who's a little flawed, but like if he brings you to Worlds every year, you kind of keep him around. But I think once you mess up, it's time to try a different strategy. Um, but I think that Rainover has a different coaching philosophy, and we kind of seen that in Academy, and I think that he can bring that over to the LCS. I'm really curious to see how he can actually handle the LCS players and what he does. I think maybe last year he was actually an assistant coach for the LCS team when it was, I think maybe Westrice was the academy coach. I can't remember because people internally kind of shift around a lot for a coaching staff in terms of their roles, but I think that I think he can do really good, and I think we can give him a chance, and I'm hoping that he can add a lot more flexibility and everything to the team, because that was like a big problem that we had this split.
Yeah, and he's a former jungler, so he knows of the game. He's played with dominant top laners, great laners. He's played with Reckless.
I think his jungle experience can actually also help out Blabber, because I think that we really saw Blabber kind of struggle with some picks that we tried to put him on this in the summer, and I think that he can definitely help Blabber out, and getting him to like be able to play more and maybe adjust his play style a bit, so he's not being the crazy Blabber who's just like, oh, I gotta go in and fight all the time, and be more, he can still do that, but be more strategic about it, right?
Yeah, and I think after Worlds, the meta is gonna, or not. I think the meta is going to change dramatically after.
Yeah, they're like reworking
not
all of the
dramatically.
items.
Yes, so it's gonna be a completely different game in 2-3 months. So
Yeah. I think that it's going to be 2021 is going to be really interesting with all the changes to the game, as well as sort of the landscape. I think the COVID situation's actually going to impact like a lot of the teams and how they just make decisions about like how they build their roster, because like you may not be able to get just any imports, because is a player really going to be like, yeah, I'll go to America and risk the plague to get a bigger paycheck. That could seriously influence a lot of player decisions who are imports, and I think that how all the teams go about like fixing their rosters and everything, it's going to be really important. I believe when teams can start officially announcing like player transfers and stuff is November 17th, somewhere around like mid-November. I think that's when the official date of, I guess, like the free agency and like people being able to sign players and stuff officially happens. So once that date comes, we may get to see a lot of fireworks and some initial moves being made.
yeah, that'll be fun. Or do you have anything else to add?
I don't have anything. I did also want to mention that unfortunately Rapid Star, who's been with this organization probably just as long as Rupert has almost, he unfortunately had to leave the team to fulfill his military service for the South Korean government, that every citizen has to do. So he unfortunately also left. Hopefully when he's finished, he gets to come back, and we get to see him coach in some capacity, either on our team or another team.
Or yeah, so losing Reaper and Rapid Start this year, Rain over is
he has big shoes to fill.
Yeah, they have a lot of a rebuilding to do in infrastructure wise, so that'll be interesting. One last thing, Worlds semifinals are this weekend, I believe. They start at some point, I'm not sure when. Who do you have
eventually?
Who do you have coming out as semis, and who do you have winning the whole thing?
Let me get my pick'ems here.
So we got Top Esports versus Suning, and G2 versus Damwon.
So one thing that in my pick'ems for the bracket, I actually didn't pick G2 beating Gen.G. I thought that Gen.G was going to beat them. Yeah, I legit assumed just like Gen.G will beat G2. Gen.G looked really great. So I got hecked up there. I picked Damwon beating G2. They seem to be like legit the favorites to win the tournament.
Yeah, Top and Damwon.
Yeah, I thought I had changed. No. So what I did was I said that Sinning was going to go out, and then I'm like, no. I think JD will probably actually go. But then
let me remind you.
No, I
had
know.
Suning 4th place in Group A.
I know.
Yeah, up until I was like, hey, Suning is LPL 3.
I made the same mistake twice.
I had JDG winning, so I don't blame
Yeah.
you. But
So, but for that match, I watched the top Fnatic match, and top really struggled to actually beat Fnatic, and they had a lot of issues. Um, it seemed like a lot of points in the game, top either didn't really know what to do, or they were just really struggling to execute on their strategies, and Fnatic would just kind of strong arm them out of like neutral objectives. Like they'd set up to like take Dragon, right? But then, you know, uh, the Fnatic would just be like, hey, no, this is our Dragon, and they just kind of push them off, or they'd win some fight, even though it looked like top had kind of the advantage. So I have Sunning winning that game. They're not gonna fool me a
woof.
third time. Uh,
Okay,
and
I
so I have Sunning
I have
versus
top and Dom one.
okay. I have Sunning and Dumb one.
Or so I have top beating Dom one next weekend because I don't think we'll be back before then.
I have Dumb one winning it all. They seem to be just the strongest team at the tournament, so I think that they're gonna win it. They're the favorites. And honestly, from what I've seen, this world's nothing can convince me really otherwise. But then
Yeah,
again, most of it's been happening at like 3 in the morning, so I miss like most of it.
yeah, I know. I've been watching each day during a workout hours as like background. So I've watched every game so far, kind of. But I still have faith in Top Esports. They have the best AEDC in the world. They have Knight, 369, Karsa, all studs. So I still have faith, I guess. But
Well, we'll have to see coming up this weekend.
yep, yeah. So I think that's about it for this week.
Yep. We probably won't be back next week, unless there's like super super crazy news of, I don't know, the team getting hit by a meteor or something. But we'll probably be back 2ish weeks, probably.
Yeah, soon.
Um,
Trademark.
yes. So thanks for listening. Remember to follow us at C9Bodied, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye, guys.